Hi, I'm Zeke, and today I'm going to show you a game that I played. The main part of the game was full of blunders, like the middle game, but the end game was interesting, so I'm going to show you the end game. So, black's knight goes to d4, and white pushes the e pawn to e5. Black takes the pawn, white pushes, and black goes to f8. Now notice that this is the square of the pawn, and black's king has entered the square of the pawn because pawn push and here, and if goes here, knight goes to d5. Now I can go here and steal here and here, take the knight, check here, and now the pawn is protecting, but now I can go here and here. White pushes the pawn to e4, to f4, and black takes the pawn on d6. White checks, and black moves to e6. White checks, and white moves to d5. Knight checks. Now, if you stay on the same color, when a knight is checking you, it will take at least 2 moves for them to check you again. Just a good thing to know. So I move on the same color. White takes, and now I split. White moves to f2, and black takes the pawn. White goes to e3, and black goes to c5. White goes to e4, and now black is going to d6, protecting the knight and getting ready to go here and here. White moves to d4, and black checks. It is splitting the pawn and the king, but if the king moves here, we don't take the pawn, and we split the king and the bishop. White moves to e4, and which is where we wanted him to go, so that now we can split the king and the bishop, also known as fork. He moves into a spot that I can check him again after I take the bishop, and now we're even. Except for I can convert these 3 pawns into a one passed pawn. White moves to e3, and black's king moves to e5. This attacks the knight and prevents the white king from going to any of these squares, or this square, which makes him only have, white takes the pawn here and gets his knight out of danger from me taking. Black goes to f5, and white takes the opposition. Black checks. White moves, and now the king is coming up and take. That's what we want to do, and then turn these into queens. White goes to f8, and black goes to h3. White goes to d7, making a threat of going here, and then attacking these 2 pawns. Now, this pawn is protecting this one. This knight goes here, it's attacking here and here. So if we push this pawn, then white takes this pawn. If we And if we push this pawn, then, well, takes this one. So we push this pawn before he goes here, so that if he goes here, we can just push this pawn, and then the knight has to go here to make that same threat. White goes to c5, and black takes the free pawn on h2. White pushes. Now, black king goes to g3, holding these squares, and also a box there, and it's holding a lot of squares now, making the king not able to go towards his pawn or protect his pawn. Knight checks. Now this is okay, even though it's split. I can take the pawn, his last pawn, so he has no chance of getting queens. And white takes on e5, black takes the knight. Black takes the knight here. So white decides to check instead, and now I move. Black moves to h3. White moves to g2, attacking my knight. Black's knight. Black moves to h2, protecting the knight and holding the 3 squares for queening. White checks, and now I want to trade. It's okay if we trade, but here white plunders the knight, and so black takes, and here's where where white resigned, because king e3 would have happened, knight h3, king f3, and then pawn f5, holding these 4 squares, and now the knight is holding these, and the king is holding these. So now the king has to move away here, and pawn push, and king goes to e4. This is what would have happened. The reason king wouldn't have gone to f4 is because the knight has this square. So then you just push, get a queen, and then, well, that's what would have happened. Thank you for watching.